Greetings, everyone, and welcome. November the 7th, 2025, 4:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Donald Trump and Viktor Orbán have completed their meetings, and yes, we are now officially on a collision course. And this time, we're not talking specifically about Russia versus Ukraine, but now we have to talk a little bit about Hungary versus Ukraine. This is based on the lifting of sanctions. Trump just exempted Hungary so that they are able to purchase Russian oil through the Druzhba pipeline. In addition to that, it is not being reported heavily, but additional sanctions have already been lifted, even after the June sanctions were lifted a little bit on the PAX-2 nuclear power plant program that is being performed by Rosatom, the Russian energy nuclear company. All of this on the heels of what Zelenskyy said earlier. So there is no other way that we can summarize this but to say we're on a collision course. I have all of the video for you. I'm going to go back and play the 20 seconds of Zelenskyy for you, and then we're going to dig into Trump and Orbán speaking. I took the entire press conference and I condensed it all the way down just so the pertinent comments about Ukraine are there so that you guys are completely caught up, because today, as I thought and many others have thought, is going to be a potential game changer as we go forward. And I think at the conclusion of this, you may agree with that. I look forward to that in your comments. Thank you for being here. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, all of those things. We appreciate each and every one of you. Now, Zelenskyy said earlier today, you will not get Russian oil. And yes, I remind you guys, the Druzhba pipeline comes through Ukraine. Orbán excited, Trump just exempted us. So let me start. Here's the facts. Here's Zelenskyy just hours ago. But then he needs to understand our position on this. We cannot allow Russians to profit from energy. He thinks that he'll do it by hating on Ukraine, but he will not succeed. Why? Because we will not allow it. We will not allow the Russians to sell their oil there. Can't make it any clearer than that. And of course, he's referring to Orbán. If you need further clarification on that, you can go back to my earlier video dropped a few hours ago, where all of the statements of Zelenskyy are. The bottom line is we cannot allow Russians to profit from energy, and you're not going to get Russian oil. That is directly out of the mouth of President Zelenskyy just hours before the sanctions have now been lifted, exempted, whichever terminology you want to use, for Hungary to purchase Russian oil through the Druzhba pipeline and additional energy help on the PAX-2 nuclear power plant. So now, to bring further clarity to this bold statement on the thumbnail and the title, we need to go inside the Trump-Orbán meeting. I took the clips, put them together, subtitled it so that even folks that English is their second or third language, you can read the subtitles down below. And guys, you just have to see it for yourself. Here we go.
We're looking at it because it's very difficult for him to get the oil and gas from other areas. As you know, they don't have the advantage of having sea. It's a great country. It's a big country, but they don't have sea. They don't have the ports. And so they have a difficult problem. There's another country that has that same problem, by the way. But when you look at what's happened with Europe, many of those countries, they don't have those problems, and they buy a lot of oil and gas from Russia. And as they know, I'm very disturbed by that, because we're helping them and they're going and buying oil and gas from Russia. So that question could be really asked maybe more accurately if you talked about many European countries, not Hungary necessarily, because Hungary is in a different position. But many European countries are buying oil and gas from Russia, and they have been for years. And I say, what's that all about, right?
So that will be one of the issues for today, to explain clearly what would be the consequences for the Hungarian people and for the Hungarian economy not to get oil and gas from Russia, because we are supplied by pipelines. pipeline is not an ideological or political issue, it's a physical reality, because we don't have port, exactly as the President explained to you. So we will negotiate on that point. It's vital for us anyway. Oil is another issue. So oil is coming from the Druzhba pipeline, which is the main supply, and that is a Croatian one, which is the secondary and supplementary pipeline. We would like to convince the Croatian government to enlarge it and make it possible to deliver more. Under these circumstances, it cannot be the main pipeline. It's just supplementary. But later on, with some big investments, it could serve better the interest of Hungary.
All right, so we'll pause right there. We'll go to the next topic next. You see here, this was the precursor to the private meeting where later we would learn just minutes ago that the sanctions have been lifted. Hungary can freely purchase Russian oil with no penalties, no tariffs, no sanctions, nothing, because they're landlocked and they need it, and because Donald Trump really likes Viktor Orbán. He's a great guy, and you know what? I'm just going to help you guys out. But Viktor Orbán, very wise and crafty. He knows how to talk back to Donald Trump. It was interesting. I watched the entire press conference there, and only a little bit of it was actually about the oil and gas in Ukraine and Russia. I have it all for you. But most of it was about these two guys just complimenting how great each other are, and will be. So this is just the reality. Viktor Orbán, well played, because he knows how to get out of the Trump administration what he needed. You compliment, you stroke the ego, and here, you can buy Russian oil. So that's where we start. But now, think about it, guys. It was just hours ago that Zelenskyy said, you will not get Russian oil. This is why I confidently, with this thumbnail and title, collision course. Trump just exempted us. So what? You're not going to get it. This could lead us to another level of escalation, especially on the political side between Hungary and Ukraine. And now you have to throw the United States into the mix of that. Now, let's continue. This is the second talking point.
The only pro-peace government is the United States government and the small Hungary in Europe anyway. All the other governments prefer to continue the war because many of them think that Ukraine can win on the front line, which is a misunderstanding of the situation. So it's a complicated issue. We will discuss it. It requests not just 2 minutes to respond to your question, but rather than our lecture. Sorry, not to continue more than that.
To both of you.
So you would say that Ukraine cannot win that war?
You know, miracle can happen.
All right, we'll pause it there. And he says miracles. And of course, he has an accent speaking English, but it's easy to understand. So Trump asked him, so Ukraine can't win that war? Well, miracles can happen. So you see how they kind of ride the fence here. And, you know, the last time I checked, Orbán really has no relationship with Zelenskyy or Ukraine at all. So I'm not sure how well informed he is about the actual war, other than the propaganda that he receives from where? The Kremlin. It's easy to see. It's easy to understand. Now, let's continue on. This is the next topic.
Yeah. That's right.
What is the main dispute with the Russians which prevent the Budapest summit with Putin from taking place?
The basic dispute is they just don't want to stop yet.
All right, I'm going to pause there. Why is there no Budapest meeting? This is going to be a huge sticking point for Ukraine as all of this is analyzed, because Putin doesn't want to stop yet. You will hear in the remaining of these excerpts that I have for you, no talk about Ukraine being invaded as a sovereign nation. No talk whatsoever about Ukrainian sovereignty, about Ukrainian freedom, about Ukrainian right to exist and have their country, their sovereign borders. Nothing. It's only about, well, Russia just wants to keep fighting. And this is one of the core issue problems. So when you take that and then you put it in parallel with, oh, you can buy oil, you're not getting oil. Here we go, guys. We can have 2 trains on a collision course on a track. We'll continue with this now.
And I think they will. I think it's taken a big toll on Russia. big toll on both countries, obviously, but it's taken a big toll. They're losing 7,000 soldiers a week. That's a big toll. And between the two of them, divided, with Russia losing more soldiers, actually, but they're both losing a lot of people. And that's the primary thing that, with me, it's not economic, it's not money. In fact, we don't spend any money. We send it to NATO. They pay us for our missiles and for our military and everything else.
All right, we're going to stop right there because we're getting ready to go now into the Biden world. Everything is Biden's fault. This war would not have happened if Trump was the president, and you're going to watch Viktor Orbán play this perfectly. So the question is, we now are a year later, roughly. Okay, 10 months into this administration. I was going to end it in 24 hours, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 100 days, whatever. At some point, it's not Biden's fault anymore that you cannot stop Putin, sir, by the waving of a magic wand. At some point, it's not Biden's fault anymore, and we're already beyond that point. And the other question that Ukrainians are asking as you listen to what is coming up next, what were we supposed to do? We were invaded. Full war invasion. Were we supposed to just surrender and capitulate? No. We must defend ourselves. Here, we'll continue with this now.
It's not a question of money. It was with Biden. He spent $350 billion. He got nothing for it. The war would have never happened. If I were president, the war would have never happened. I think you would agree with that. This war would never have happened if I were president. It's stupid that it happened. But it did happen. I inherited the war, and I think we're going to get it ended. Not too distant future. Yes, please.
So no question that if that time the name of the United States president would have been Donald Trump, there would be no war between Ukraine and Russia.
Okay. Kudos to you, Viktor Orbán. You played that perfectly.
It's clear. But what we are speaking about here is more than that. Because without the pressure coming from the United States government, I'm speaking 2022, the Europeans would not take that hard line, what they have today on the war. Remember that big countries of Europe rejected to be involved more than just sending some, humanitarian issues. So the pressure coming from the United States to be more pro-war in Europe. So that's the fact of the history anyway. So we have to restore something which was ruined and created from here, and that's the reason why I understand absolutely the devotion of the president now to do everything to stop the war, because that would be not that deep without the previous government pressure from here. So the reason why I'm here to be as much as helpful I can to contribute to the peace efforts of the president, because that was an enormous mistake what we have done, the Western world several years ago, and we have to stop it, and it's common responsibility.
Biden actually pushed for that war to happen. Okay, if you can believe it. Nobody can believe it, but it's one of those things. And now look what happened. Look what's happened to Ukraine. It's a much smaller country. A lot of people are dead. You take a look at it's a whole different world over there, and Russia has not been helped very much by that war either. They lost a tremendous number of soldiers and people. Look, that war should have been a 1 week war. I don't know why it's taken. This is 4 years. Should have been 1 week. Should have been over with, but it would have never started. Should have never started. And I would have solved the problem without giving up anything. Ukraine would have remained as is. You mean?
Okay, you're listening to it yourself. You can identify everything that's happening. Viktor Orbán actually pushing the onus that it's actually the United States' fault, going back to Biden, that Europe has went into the mentality that it has as a warmongering region and wanting to defend their sovereignty. Of course, it has nothing to do with all the events that have happened during the almost 4 years of this war, where Europe says, I think we should defend ourselves and get a little stronger, because it looks like Putin wants to reconstitute the Soviet Union, or at the minimum be very, very aggressive, making Ukraine neutral, putting this empire desire on our border, and we're supposed to just sit back and do nothing? This is what we're watching unfold right in front of our faces today. And of course, once again, Not only would the war have never happened, but Ukraine would have their whole country right now. They'd have everything right now. These people, and I'm speaking specifically about the White House administration, know absolutely zero about the Kremlin and zero about Ukraine, period.
A meeting with President Putin? Yes. You mean in Hungary? Well, I'd like to keep it in Hungary, in Budapest. That meeting, it turned out I didn't want to do that meeting because I didn't think anything was going to be happening of significance. But if we have it, I'd like to do it in Budapest. Yeah, it'd be good. I think we agree that the war is going to end. Sometimes people have to fight it out a little bit longer, but I think we agree that the war is going to end in the not too distant future. You want to talk about that, Viktor?
I have some ideas, and I will present it to the president. How to stop it.
Mr. Prime Minister.
I feel like I'm watching literally a comedy show right there. Well, the war's going to end, but they're going to keep on fighting. What do you think about that, Viktor? Well, I have some ideas. We'll talk about that in private. You cannot make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. This just happened and just completed in the White House, the United States of America. Viktor Orbán and Donald Trump meeting. A lot has unfolded today when you take Zelensky's statements, all of that you just have witnessed coming out of the White House. Going to be an interesting day tomorrow as this news filters through Ukraine and filters through Russia. Once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, and subscribing. What are your thoughts on all of these conversations? Are you seeing it like I see it, or do you have a different opinion about this? We appreciate each and every one of you. Be blessed.